So if you're listening, you've probably put in the hard yards, right? You've hit that C1 level in English, you handle complex stuff, you sound pretty fluent, you generally operate well professionally, socially. I mean, objectively, you've made it. And yet, maybe you're feeling a little bit adrift. That really fast progress you made earlier, it's kind of slowed down now. And those big goals like, I just want to get better, or I need to be more fluent, well, they feel a bit like trying to boil the ocean. They're wishes, really, not plans. It's like you've sailed this huge ship across the ocean, but now you're just floating in the harbor aimlessly. Which dock do you even go to? That feeling. That's the classic C1 dilemma. So today, in this deep dive, we're going to talk about SMART goals. But forget that dry corporate stuff you might have heard. Think of it more like a high-precision navigation system, one that's specifically calibrated for you, the C1 learner, and your unique challenges. This isn't just goal setting, it's about giving you a blueprint, a way to stop wandering and actually build your fluency, to go from drifter to, well, architect of your own mastery. Okay, so let's dig in. First things first, we need to diagnose the problem, don't we? Why do those vague goals sound more native or improve my confidence? Why do they just fizzle out at the C1 level? What's actually going on?
Yeah, it's a really common trap, especially when you're advanced. The thing is, those goals, they're fundamentally, unactionable. They're wishes, like you said, not objectives. Your brain, it struggles to make a concrete plan when the target is so fuzzy. And importantly, it makes it hard to feel any sense of accomplishment. Think about it. You put in effort, sure, but because the target isn't clear, you've got no way of knowing if what you're doing is actually helping you improve. And that leads to this cycle. Effort, but no clear plan, no measurable progress. Motivation starts to dip, and bam, you feel stuck on that plateau again.
That's so true. It feels like pouring water into a sieve, right? You're busy, you're doing stuff, but it feels like it just vanishes.
Exactly. Let's take a classic one. I want to improve my writing. Okay, great intention. But for a C1 learner, what does improve actually mean? Does it mean getting rid of those last few stubborn grammar mistakes? Is it about using fancier vocabulary? Maybe it's about sounding more persuasive, or telling better stories in reports, or, I don't know, varying your sentence structure, okay? Because it's not specific, you don't know where to even begin. You might read a grammar book, learn some words, write something, but there's no real target.
And that right there, that's exactly where the SMART framework comes in. It's like the antidote. It's a tool that forces you really to dissect those vague ambitions into something solid, concrete, manageable projects. It turns that frustrating fog of just getting better into a super clear roadmap, with an actual destination. Okay, so let's break down the acronym. Specific, measurable, achievable, relevant, and time-bound. We need to apply this with C1 level precision. First step. S for specific. And C1 specific really means micro-specific. We're not talking broad strokes here. It's about isolating one single high-impact area. Generalities are your enemy now. We need laser focus. So how do we get that focus?
Well, a great tool is the 5 Ws. Ask yourself, what exactly do I want to achieve? Why is this specific goal important? Who's involved? Like, who's the audience? Where will I practice this? And which resources or constraints do I need to think about? This kind of detail really helps to fight that feeling of being overwhelmed. The feeling that there's just so much left to learn at C1. Instead of everything, you focus on this one thing. Okay, let's make this concrete. Vague goal. I want to improve my speaking. A specific goal would sound more like, I will reduce my use of filler words like and like when I'm speaking in our weekly team meetings. Why? Because it'll make me sound more polished, more confident, more authoritative. My team and my manager, they're the audience.
Okay, much clearer already.
Right. Another one. I want to expand my vocabulary. That's super common. Specific version. I will master 20 sophisticated verbs related to business strategy. Think leverage, mitigate, expedite, streamline. Why? So I can articulate my strategic ideas with more precision and impact. Resources, my professional meeting, and maybe a dedicated Anki deck.
Got it. And one more.
Sure. How about, I want to understand native speakers better. Again, too vague. Specific. I will improve my understanding of fast-paced, informal American English, specifically things like connected speech and common idioms. Why? So I can follow and join in the pre-meeting small talk with my U.S. colleagues. That's important for building rapport, right?
Sure.
By analyzing specific TV shows and podcasts.
Yeah, you can almost feel the fog lifting just hearing those examples. Specificity really does turn this huge abstract thing into a manageable project. It gives you that clear target, which is so vital when, like you said, progress isn't as obvious as it was back in the beginner stages.
Yeah, and that flows perfectly into the next letter. M for measurable. Like you just touched on, beginner progress is often really obvious. You learn a new phrase, you understand something, you feel it. But at C1, that progress can be almost invisible. You might not feel a 5% improvement in your intonation, for example. And that lack of visible progress, it's a killer for motivation. That's why measurement is so critical. It gives you objective proof, evidence that your hard work is actually paying off, and that's the best fuel there is. Your goal has to have concrete metrics.
Okay, so how do we make that invisible progress, well, visible? Let's add the M to those specific goals we just talked about. For the speaking goal, reducing fillers, how would we measure that?
You could record yourself in one meeting each week.
Yeah.
Then actually count the filler words per minute, the goal. Maybe decrease that count by, say, 50% over the next 2 months.
Okay, that's a clear number. And the vocabulary goal, mastering those 20 verbs.
For that, maybe keep a practice journal. The measure could be ensuring you've actively used each verb correctly at least 3 times in a real context, an email, report, a meeting by the end of the quarter.
Trackable, I like it. And the listening goal, understanding fast and formal speech.
You could pick a 5-minute clip from a specific TV show each week. The measure. Aim to transcribe, say, 95% of it accurately, including the idioms, without looking at subtitles.
Right, so you're not just guessing if you understood, you're proving it.
Exactly. Measurement takes it from a subjective wish, I hope I'm getting better, to an objective, data-driven project and tells you straight up if you're succeeding or not. No more guesswork.
Okay, on to A, achievable. Now this one feels like a really crucial reality check, especially, I think, for C1 learners. A goal needs to stretch you, yeah, but it has to be grounded in reality, your time, your resources, just the nature of language learning itself. C1 learners, you're often high achievers, right? Maybe a bit perfectionistic. So setting a goal that's less than perfect can feel wrong, but that can lead to setting these wildly unachievable targets.
Oh, absolutely. It's almost like a subtle self-sabotage. The same drive that got you to C1 can trip you up if you're not careful. So achievable isn't just a nice to have, it's protection against that inner perfectionist demanding the impossible.
So give us an example of achievable versus not so much.
Okay, a common unachievable one. I will eliminate my accent in 3 months. Why does this fail? Well, accent reduction is slow, it involves deep muscle memory, total elimination is almost impossible for most adults, and 3 months is just unrealistic for major change. A more achievable version might be, over the next 6 months, I'll work with an accent coach weekly to master the 5 vowel sounds I struggle with most. My goal is to reduce my accent enough so I don't have to repeat myself so often with native speakers. See, it focuses on a specific part and a realistic outcome.
That makes sense. Manageable chunks.
Exactly. Another example. I will read 1 classic English novel every single week for a year. For most busy people, that's just not sustainable. You'll likely burn out. Achievable version.
Yeah.
I will read 1 work of classic English literature every 2 months. And I'll support this by listening to the audiobook on my commute and reading for maybe 30 minutes before bed 3 nights a week. It breaks it down, integrates it into your life.
Yeah, I can definitely relate to setting overly ambitious goals. That Japanese attempt I mentioned earlier was a classic case. So when you're setting your goal, you really need to ask yourself some tough questions. Like, on a scale of 1 to 10, how confident am I really that I can do this? Aim for above a 7, right?
Definitely.
And have I broken it down into smaller weekly steps? Do I actually have the time, the money, the books, whatever resources I need? This is your achievability filter.
And that leads nicely into R for relevant. Honestly, this is the heart of the goal. If it's not deeply connected to your life, personally or professionally, your motivation will just vanish, especially when things get tough. For C1 learners who are probably juggling lots of things, relevance is everything. It has to answer that question. Why does this matter to me right now?
Yeah. The best way to check this, connect it to a bigger ambition, a core value. We often use the so that test.
Yes, the so that test. I find that one really revealing. It forces you to dig a bit deeper, doesn't it? Okay, let's try it. Goal. I want to master the language of respectful disagreement. Apply the test.
Okay. So that I can share my own ideas in meetings more confidently, even if they're different from my managers.
Or so that I'm seen as more strategic, a more valuable team member.
Or even so that I boost my chances for that team lead role opening up next year.
Right. It connects the dots. Exactly. So that clarifies the real purpose. Now, it's not just some abstract English exercise. It's a vital step for your career or whatever your bigger aim is. Think about the contrast. Imagine an accountant setting a goal to learn 50 words about postmodern art. Unless they have a hidden passion, is probably irrelevant. Motivation will likely fizzle. But for that same accountant, a goal like master the English needed to explain complex financial reports clearly to non-finance people. That's directly relevant, highly motivating. It links to their professional value.
That makes perfect sense. But what if? What if our accountant friend genuinely is fascinated by postmodern art? Does relevance mean you can only focus on work stuff?
That's a really good question. It's not about killing curiosity. It's more about prioritizing your SMART goals for fluency development. You can absolutely pursue other interests, like art vocabulary, but maybe you frame it differently. It's a personal interest project, not your core time-bound SMART goal for this quarter. You can say, okay, my main SMART goal is X, the finance reports, and for fun, on the side, I'm exploring Y, art terms. That keeps your main progress track clear.
Okay, that's a helpful distinction. It allows for both. And finally, T for time bound. I think this is where a lot of us, maybe especially at C1, where there isn't that immediate exam pressure, tend to drift. A goal without a deadline, it really is just a dream, isn't it?
It absolutely is. The deadline creates urgency, gives you a finish line. It forces you to plan backward from that date. Let's be honest, we've all probably had goals that just float around indefinitely because there was no end date attached. What's important here is figuring out appropriate timelines. Think in terms of sprints, projects, maybe even epics, short-term goals, sprints, could be like 1-4 weeks. Great for mastering a small skill, like learning 10 specific phrasal verbs. Medium-term projects, maybe 1-3 months. Good for something like preparing and delivering a big presentation. And long-term, epics, perhaps 6-12 months. For reaching a significant new level of fluency needed for, say, a new client-facing job.
Okay, so putting it all together, SMART. Let's hear that full example again, bringing everything to life.
Sure. So, S. I will improve my ability to build rapport with American clients by mastering American-style small talk. I'll measure this by being able to sustain a non-business chat for at least 5 minutes at the start of 8 out of 10 client calls tracked in my journal. A. I'll practice by spending 15 minutes each morning catching up on U.S. news, sports, tech trends, and role-playing weekly with my tutor. This matters because strong client relationships are critical for my sales role success. T. I will hit this benchmark by the end of this quarter, October 31st, 2025.
Wow. Okay, when you hear it like that, it's not a vague wish anymore, is it?
Not at all. That's a project plan. It's a blueprint for success.
Right. So we've deconstructed the framework. Now let's see this blueprint in action. Let's talk about how this actually transforms people's learning journeys. Real stories. Let's start with Dr. Kenji Tanaka, the researcher from Kyoto you mentioned. His vague goal was, I want to be more active at conferences, but I feel too shy. Shy felt a bit off, though.
It did. When we dug deeper, his issue wasn't really general shyness. It was performance anxiety, stemming from not having the right communication tools. He didn't know how to politely enter a debate or phrase a counter-argument effectively in English. So his SMART goal became, by the Global Neuroscience Conference in 6 months, I will master 15 specific English phrases for academic debate. Like, while I see your point, have you considered? Heasure. Use at least 2 phrases successfully in our weekly English lab meetings. Achievable. Practice 1 phrase daily. Role play with a colleague. Relevant. Boost academic visibility. Collaboration potential. Time bound by the conference date.
That's fascinating. So the shyness was just a symptom. The real problem was the lack of a toolkit.
Precisely. And the outcome. He had a concrete training plan instead of just vague anxiety. At the conference, he felt prepared. He actually used one of his phrases in a Q&A, posed a good question. The confidence boost from that one planned success was huge for him.
Great example. Okay, what about Isabel Rossi, the brand manager in São Paulo? Her issue was, my reports need to sound more professional, less Brazilian. How does she tackle that?
Well, she worked with a mentor. They pinpointed 2 specific things. First, her sentences tended to be long and winding, maybe influenced by Portuguese. Second, she lacked some specific sophisticated business vocabulary. So her SMART goal. Over the next 8 weeks, refine my monthly marketing report writing. 2 parts. 1, reduce average sentence length below 22 words measured with a word processor. 2, incorporate at least 10 new relevant business adjectives per report, like actionable, granular, holistic, tracked in a log. Achievable. Use our 45-minute train commute twice weekly to analyze Harvard Business Review articles and rewrite report sections. Relevant. Critical for how senior leadership perceives her strategic thinking. Time-bound. 8 weeks.
Again, so specific. It wasn't about being less Brazilian at all, but about concrete writing techniques.
Exactly. And the result? Her reports became much clearer, sharper, more authoritative. Her manager even noticed, commenting on the new level of sharpness in her analysis. Targeting those specific measurable elements really changed her professional image.
These stories really highlight something, don't they? Setting a great SMART goal is step 1, a powerful step. But it's kind of useless without, well, a system to actually do it and check in, right? You need fuel for the engine.
Absolutely critical. The SMART goal is the destination on your map. The system is the vehicle that gets you there. You need to back up those outcome goals, the SMART goal itself, with strong process goals. These are the small, repeatable actions, things you schedule, things you track. For example, outcome goal. Master 20 business phrasal verbs by month end. Okay, great. Process goal system. Every Monday, Wednesday, Friday, 8.008.15 a.m. Take 2 verbs from my list. Do a word autopsy, meaning collocations, register. Write 3 example sentences relevant to my work in my journal.
Okay, so it's not just I'll learn them sometime. It's I will do this specific action at this specific time. That makes it way more concrete.
It makes it almost inevitable. Your system is what guarantees progress. Don't just have the goal. Schedule the process.
And to keep that system humming along, you need that review, that check-in. You suggested treating your learning like a business, right? Scheduling a weekly, say, 15-minute CEO meeting with yourself.
Exactly. And in that meeting, just 3 quick things. 1, review your metrics. Look at the data. Did you hit your targets? Did you do the transcriptions? How many verbs did you use? 2, analyze what worked well, what didn't. Was the system efficient? Did you actually stick to it? Why or why not? 3, plan ahead. Based on that review, set your process goals for the next 7 days. Adjust if needed.
That regular check-in keeps you accountable, lets you tweak things, it keeps you on track. But what if you miss a week? Or you fall off the wagon completely? Is that failure?
Not at all. Life happens. And more broadly, it's about being adaptable. Sometimes you set a goal, you start working on it, and you realize, you know what? This isn't quite right. Maybe it's less relevant than you thought. Maybe it turns out to be genuinely unachievable with your current schedule. The smart move isn't to just keep grinding towards failure. It's to pivot. Believe me, I've had to pivot on my own learning goals many times. It's just part of it.
Oh, me too. My early language learning attempts were full of pivots away from impossible goals. It's absolutely okay to revise your goal based on new information. Don't see it as failing. Just reevaluate the S, M, A, R, and T. It's not failure. It's strategic adaptation. Smart, even.
Exactly. A smart goal setter has to be a smart goal adjuster, too.
So let's bring this all together. For you, listening, navigating that C1 level, it's a place where lots of really dedicated learners can lose their way. You get stuck in that fog of vague ambitions, get better, be more fluent. You put in effort, but without direction, you feel like you're drifting. And that leads to frustration, maybe losing some of that initial joy. The SMART framework. That's your way out of the fog. It's a tool, a really powerful one that lets you cut through all that ambiguity. It lets you design your path forward like an engineer. Precision. It forces you to define better, to measure it, to ground it in reality, connect it to what truly matters to you, and give yourself deadlines. It transforms you from just wishing passively to actively building, actively architecting your own mastery. Look, your C1 English is amazing. It's a powerful engine, but an engine without a steering wheel, without a destination, well, it just spins in circles. So stop wishing for fluency. Start engineering it. Here's the challenge. This week, pick one area, just one small area of your English you want to improve. Run it through that SMART filter. Craft a goal. Specific, measurable, achievable, relevant, time-bound. Then design the system, the process that will make it happen. Your journey to mastery doesn't start someday. It starts right now with one single SMART goal. The blueprint, it's yours. Time to start building.